Hello there.
Hello! Volume okay?
Yeah, you sound okay.
I only sound
In
okay,
one.
chat. I am already streaming. I hope that's alright.
Oh, that's perfectly great. That was expected, and I just got everything set up, and before we get this started, choose a color.
Choose... neon green.
Ah, green. Oh well, that's easy. I've already got green selected.
What is
It's
he
not quite
interviewing
me.
me for? It's a pyramid scheme. He doesn't know I'm already on to him, and I'm gonna drag this out as long as possible.
Ah. So have you picked out a place in Turia?
How about my home instance? That way no one can bother us.
Oh, sure, sure,
new
that works.
arrival.
All right.
So I'm in Radisum.
Okay. Oh, all right, Rada.
I thought about doing the guild hall, and then I was just imagining like 60 people sitting on my head, and I was like, let's not.
Yeah, I was realizing that like if we wherever we went, people could easily find you, and then but I can get the.
It's the
I,
hat.
I even yeah I even picked a teleport to a teleport to friend just in case you chose some place that was like ridiculously impossible to find, but then so where would you like to stand? Oh, by the way, I love fight shrub. These are my favorite pet. I love
The Abogas?
forget what I call them. Yeah, bogas are great. They are my favorite thing ever.
Where do I want to stand?
Yeah,
I,
here
I
is great.
yeah, I don't really care.
Okay, all right. So I'll do like an introduction, and if I flub it, I'll just do it again. And uh, also hello to everyone from the Bone Zone. Hope you're having a great day. So here we go. Um, Good morning, Internet. Hello and welcome to another MMOanthropology interview. I'm your host, Amarist, and with me is the Internet sensation from Twitch TV. It's Mukluk. And please introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mukluk Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire the Fourth, here with Sir Chauncey Van Snuffles the Third, Fight Shrub, and apparently Impact Sands, and I do games.
And I think that wonderfully segues me into literally my first question, and that is, how did you get your name? And initially it is Mukluk, which from what I know is kind of a type of shoe, except for that's short, and the full name is like really long. So can you like tell me like where you got it and how did it get so long?
First of all, someone clip that. Second of all, the name Mukluk, I was playing Everquest 1, so this would have been like 2001 or something like that. I was playing EverQuest 1, my first MMO that I got hooked on, and I was making a troll. And for any of you watching this later, I'm actually talking about like the fantasy trolls, 7 foot tall, green skin, regeneration, stuff like that. Not the current trolls, which are, they should be buried beneath a prison. But the fantasy troll back then, I was like, all right, I want a roleplay-ish sounding name. I logged in on a throwaway character, and I looked at the NPCs, and there was one named like, Gugwump or something. So I was like, all right, Mukluk. I thought I was making up a word. I used that as my online name for years before I found out I was a shoe. I had no idea. And like people, like one, I specifically remember over the years, and one guy messaged me, he's like, "Are you from Alaska?" And I'm like, "What? No." And he's like, "Oh, Mukluk is whale blubber." And I'm like, "What?" And
No.
there was the shoe thing later on. In the early 2000s, there was an episode of The Simpsons that used the word mukluk. Apparently, Krusty the Clown said, comedy isn't about using dirty words, it's about using words that sound dirty, like mukluk. And then for the next week, anytime someone saw me online, they thought I copied my name from that joke. And I'm like, no, I've been using it for years. And, stuff like that. And then, sometimes I would go into a game and I would try to make my name Mukluk, and the name was taken. So I'd shorten it to just Muck because I was used to answering to it. And then all the Pokemon fans come out. And I gotta tell you, I like Pokemon, but everyone thinks that like, oh, he's a fan of Pokemon. His name is Muck, And so I would get that a ton. fun little segue from there. My son has got, due to us jokingly calling him Grimer, Grimer evolves into Muck, he uses Grimer as his online name now. He's 8 years old.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, but all the other stuff. So the Mukluk Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire the Fourth. So that was it just in the last 2 years. That was when I started streaming. It started out as kind of a joke. I was like, Mukluk Esquire the Fourth welcomes you, and I hit the little filter to, if anyone watching me live, I've got the mustache on right now. I would do the filter and do the little intro. And then I kept just adding more to it. And it became like a game. Anytime I memorized the whole thing, I would add another word. And it got to the point, and I'm going to say it just to make a point here. It got to the point where whenever I got a follow, because I was a much smaller channel then, I can't do this for every follower now, I would say, Mukluk Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire the Fourth and Sir Chauncey Van Snuffles the Third welcomes you, dear viewer, to the Bone Zone. We hope you enjoy your staging. Corporates are on the way. Giveaways every week. Please take a seat, but you're lonely near the edge. I would say all of that. And there was one day I was saying that, and I had about mastered it, so I was getting ready to add more to it. And my wife, who had nothing to do with this, comes in here from the living room, put her hand on my shoulder, and she was like, "Don't make that any longer." Apparently, I was driving her crazy. I had no idea. So I was forbidden from lengthening the intro any more than it already was. So that's what it is.
It's gotten a little bit too long. Okay, that's actually pretty hilarious. Okay, so the next question is about the location that you chose, and of course, like one of the reasons is because you're popular enough now that there would just be this crush of people that would come visiting us, but the other one, of course, is that you chose. There's a large number of home instances that you could have chosen, but your particular race that you are is Asura from Guild Wars 2. Is there a specific reason that you chose Radasum over all of the other cities that you could have picked?
Although I do love the Asura, I just think their animations are cute and funny. Like, they remind me of I forget which Star Wars episode it was. It was either 2 or 3 when Yoda goes into a fight scene and he's like flipping off the walls and no one expected it. And it was just like, what the crap? They remind me of that. Because, like, their dodge roll, like, look at this. Without even bending the knees, honestly, I think on a muscle-to-pound ratio, Asuras are possibly the strongest race because they can do that.
Yeah,
so,
they do. They do, like, the ant flip or the flea flip.
Yeah, without even, like, bending the knees. They're just like, oh, let me just jump twice my height backwards. And then Char have to do a little tuck and roll because they're supposed to both cover the same distance with the dodge roll. So I think just their over-exaggerated animations are cute and funny. That said, the reason I picked the Asura home instance for, like, I farm it every day is truly due to just efficiency. I've tried all of them, and this one, you can't, actually, you might be able to see it on your minimap, unless you farmed a home instance today. Can you see all the stuff in here?
Okay. I've farmed most of it. People could probably see the stuff that I haven't gotten because I don't have all the nodes.
Gotcha. It's mostly in an oval. Like, you literally run one lap and you don't miss anything. Whereas the Sylvari one, you have to go through a freaking hall of mirrors. The Char one is a third of the Black Citadel. Same with the human one. And what's the other race? Oh yeah, big humans. Their home instance is a giant hotel. So I just find this one to be the most efficient to get everything done, so it's my favorite one.
Oh, also, speaking of using like an Asura as kind of your primary avatar, I remember watching one of your live streams and you were mentioning the sort of like the wizard hat, using that as one of your iconic like a fashion items. Like, how did that come up?
So the wizard hat was the very first, maybe only, item I've ever gotten from the gem store that didn't have like a function, where it was just, Fashion Wars, right? Like, I saw it on the store. At that time, I maybe averaged 20 or 30 viewers. And I was like, oh my god, this is the first time I've ever felt the need to break open the wallet. That looks adorable on me. I want it. And I was ready to buy, it was 200 gems. That's like $2 or something. I was ready to buy it instantly. And then someone in chats was like, dude, don't. And then they just said, check your mail, and they had mailed it to me. So I had it. I love the whole tiny munchkin with an oversized hat trope. You see it in like the old Final Fantasy games, which I honestly never played, but it's in Dungeon Defenders, and there's so many games. Short guy, huge oversized hat, and I think it's funny looking, and it was in all my earliest guides. And it got to the point where, one, I was still happy with it, and two, it was starting to make me recognizable. Like, people would see the short guy with the hat and then check to see if that's Muck. And so I was just like, why change it? It's I'm happy with the appearance, and it's becoming like an iconic thing. And at this point, I've got it's just a copy of the wizard hat icon, but it's one of my Twitch emotes, because I had to open in emote slots, and so I was like, put your hat in, and I'm like, all right, so now the hat is one of the emotes.
So what are... Yeah, I know you have, like, the emotes with, like, the shiny eyes and the cowl. What... I've heard those mentioned, but what are those called?
They're called emotes.
Oh, I mean the figures.
Oh, okay, so that, I guess, would be, like, my Twitch mascot, whatever, because... I wasn't a Guild Wars 2 streamer originally. If I was, maybe the guy you see before you would have been the Twitch mascot. But originally, I did Divinity Original Sin 2, then Divinity Original Sin 1, Pillars of Eternity. I essentially just RPGs. I tore through RPGs. And I went through this stuff, and although I was a big fan of MMOs, I rarely streamed them at that time period. And I was going through RPGs, and the thing that always catches my eye, whether I'm playing Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Path of Exile, Borderlands, any game, if there is a character that summons, be it animal companions, the undead with a necromancer, elementals with a conjurer, turrets with a machine guy, traps with a ranger, totems with a shaman, like, they make friends, That's my jam. So... I kind of started... I was trying to think of a Twitch logo for myself, and I was like, all right, I'm always drawn to these pet classes, these summoners or supporters. What would be something indicative of that? And then I thought of the Puppet Master. And I don't know if you have it where your audience can see it, but I've got the logo of, like, the hooded figure holding the puppet sticks with the strings coming off of it. So that became my Twitch logo. And then, way later on, I started unlocking emote slots. And so I got an artist to make, like, I think it's called chibi, the cute little version of a character. Yeah. I got him to make me chibi versions of emotes for the popular stuff, like Pog and Love and Smug and stuff like that. And they did a really good job. And so now I've got all of these emotes with this hooded little chibi derpy character doing all of those emotions. But originally it was supposed to be like a dark puppet master, but now he's just a dork.
And that actually just leads straight into what I always ask next, and that is, like, what is your video game playing experience, and what other MMOs have you played? You already mentioned, like, having played EverQuest and coming, like, out of RPGs. So, like, what is, like, the breadth of your experience?
Okay, video. So my dad was a computer nerd back when his parents were very concerned about him getting into such a field that doesn't have a future. Okay? So his parents were doctors, so this was a huge risk my dad took being a computer nerd, right? So we had computers in the house for all my young life. So, like, when Warcraft 1 came out, he bought it, and he played it, and he was terrible at it. And then I was allowed to play it. I don't even know if I was 10 years old yet, but I was allowed to play it and derp around on there. So I remember every single Warcraft, every single Diablo, every single StarCraft game that ever came out, and I played them. So there was those. I got hooked onto EverQuest, played that for like 7 years, and at its time, it was kind of the titan of MMOs. It took over, I think, RuneScape and Ultima Online in its time period. And then EverQuest 2 and WoW came out, on the same day. Many people of the current generation wouldn't know about this because companies don't do this anymore. When, if Diablo 4 was going to come out tomorrow and Path of Exile 2 was scheduled to come out that day, one of them would postpone. Like, it's bad business decision to do that. So one of them would, like, maybe wait a few months for, like, the ebb to die down a little and then launch their game. EverQuest 2 and WoW launched on the exact same day. Like, pre-launch, they were each other's biggest competitor. There was a lot of drama about that. I went with EverQuest 2 because I came from EverQuest, but after, like, 3 months, they had no end game. I was the second conjurer to max level. I had done everything possible in the game, and I ran out of content. So, and of course, I just mean at that time, of course. So then I went to WoW, and then hooked on that for freaking 10 years. So yeah, I played WoW for a long time. And then somewhere in the middle, because you take breaks from stuff, somewhere in the middle, I played Rift for a little while when it came out. I actually really liked Rift, but almost no one I knew liked Rift enough to stay. So I was alone, so then I didn't stay because I was alone, but I did enjoy it. Dabbled in the WildStar, Guild Wars 1, but honestly, I don't even think of Guild Wars 1 as an MMO. People come at me all the time about this. Guild Wars 1, it was like an MMO in town, but when you left town, could only see the people in your party. It felt more like Diablo to me. Like, in the lobby, there was everybody, but you leave, and then it was like an ARPG, sort of.
Yeah, Guild Wars 1 just in town, and then it instanced out. It was like Path of Exile. So. Yeah.
So I played Guild Wars 2 when it launched. I played for a few months. So, like, my account has those, like, almost 8-year birthday rewards. I'm coming up on that. Mm-hmm. But after a few months, I got tired of it, and I went on to something else. So I came back to Guild Wars 2 after a 6-year-long break with a whole lot of presents in my mailbox. I'm trying to think of what else. Black Desert Online. I was hooked on that for, like, a solid year.
Wow.
I was very much a PvEer, not a PvPer, but beautiful game. I loved, like, making my ship and, setting up the trade routes and stuff like that. Like, I was probably playing that game more like someone who would play Civ rather than, the PvPers that played it like it was friggin' Street Fighter, and I was terrible at that aspect of it.
Ooh.
I'm trying to think if I covered all of them. That's probably enough, though. It's been a lot.
Yeah, you have a really, really broad breadth, and you say you've been playing Guild Wars 2 for pretty much since launch, just on and off. And then,
with a 6-year break. Like I said, I played it to max level, got bored. 6 years later, which was about 2 years ago, I came back as a streamer and then got hooked on it all over again.
Okay, so now what do you do in a normal day in Guild Wars 2 now that you're streaming in?
I mean, it changed. It was only a few months ago I became a full-time content creator. So then I got a lot more time to devote to this. But in a given day, there's like a daily routine that my whole chat knows that I do. I will farm my home instance. I'll take 4 people from chat, the first 4 who do a /join command on me. And I'll farm my home instance. They're all allowed to pick it clean as well. I farm the guild halls, the synthesizers, and stuff like that. A couple of other small things that make you a lot of money, but you're only allowed to do them once a day. Like, I've got characters parked at a bunch of treasure chests. I'll, like, log in, open chest, log out, just bounce through all of them in 5 minutes. And I actually got kind of known for that, because, like, I hate farming. I can't stand it. I can't stand running in circles in Silver Waste for 3 hours listening to friggin' Celine Dion on podcast. I can't do that.
Reba, yeah.
Like, yeah. So I started making guides, like getting gold with low effort. And, I got a bit of a following from that. But so I do all that stuff, which maybe takes like 20, 30 minutes of the stream. And then I really enjoy the strike missions that they added recently. So I'll get people from chat, because strike missions are not that bad, and most of them, like, I like to play druid. I can solo heal most of them, so I'll just grab 9 anything from chat. It's not super try hard. If we have quickness, great. If we don't, well, we'll deal with it. I just grab 9 anything. We blast through all the strike missions. That takes like 45 minutes, and then I've got like over 4 hours remaining. Some days I do raids with experienced people. Some days I do raid training where I take newbies. I've got a sign-up sheet on my Discord, and I just start going down the list and grabbing people. And I'll teach raids like 1 day a week. Some days, like this week, there's the fractal event, so I've had more of a focus on fractals. I really, really, really love the PvP in this game, but this season, the balance is such that my class gets absolutely obliterated, so I've kind of been hiding from it, honestly. So I've actually been dusting off World v World for the first time in months because I'm hiding from PvP.
Oh. So how did you learn to play Guild Wars 2 the way that you currently play it?
Can you expand on that?
Well, like, how when you first started playing the game, how did you start learning to play the game?
I suppose trial and error. I mean, even when I tried Guild Wars 2 the very first time, I was coming from 7 years of Everquest. So compared to Everquest, this is a much smoother game. Now, granted, it gets a lot of flack in the current day and age for not being super optimized, but it is a very, smooth game as far as like the fluidity of how you can move and stuff like that. And
that's something that I really love about it, actually.
Yeah, me too. That's part of the thing that honestly keeps me hooked, is like, I could be doing almost any content in the game, but if there's combat, I'm probably having fun. Like, I don't think I love doing the strike with the 2 polar bears, but I do it every day because it's an excuse to play my druid, which excels in 10-man content, and that's 10-man content that's easy to jump into. So it's like getting to play my character to his fullest is what has me enjoy that, not the bears themselves. But yeah, I mean, honestly, coming from EverQuest and even coming back from WoW, WoW I had like 50 buttons, 5 full action bars, macros, stuff like that. So as far as like difficulty in picking up on this game, that's not really there. You've got 10 buttons, weapon swaps, okay, 15, maybe function keys. So, let's say 20 if we highball it, more if you're a weaver. But as far as how did I learn? I guess trial and error. Like, I've looked up guides for this game just like many other people, but usually when I look up guides, it's usually when I'm stuck on a mission or a mob is bugged or something like that, not because I don't know how to play the character as a whole, I guess.
Well, so the reason why that felt a little bit awkward is because normally at this point in the interview, I'm asking the person about what sort of resources that they consult and how much of the game they feel that they've experienced, but realistically, you're one of the people who has a tendency to create a lot of the guides that help the people. And so I'm interested both in how, how you feel that, like, what guides you consult, but also like how you feel about the content you create and like how you're guiding people, like how you feel about producing it also.
Okay, yeah, I can answer that. This is a big one though. Yeah. I warn you.
Yes, it's huge. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so first let's touch on like what content do I consult? Okay.
Yes.
I will say that every single time I've gotten stuck in Heart of Thorns anything, like if I was working on a legendary or Herda or map completion or something, and I just Googled like, where is this freaking thing? Dolphy, of course, or Iron Maiden. I feel like Iron Maiden's YouTube has almost a monopoly on Heart of Thorns guides. Like, she made a guide for freaking every step of every mission and every heart of every quest and everything back when Hot was live. And so I've used, not so much now because I've got most of them done, like those were one-time tasks, but I used a lot of Iron and Dolphy stuff during that time period. I'm trying to think of anything else. There's occasionally others, like I'll see random. Yeah, okay. Here's a small one. There was someone recently I watched not to learn from, but just because I find their videos entertaining sometimes. His name's like Paper Roll or Paper Towel Roll or something like that. His YouTube icon is literally a tube of paper towels. He had a PvP Druid video, and I was watching it, and he did something. I was like, wait, how the crap did he do that? And I contacted him, and I'm going to explain it really quickly. But even with the 1,000 hours I've got in this, I didn't know you could do that. And essentially, Druid has a trait where Ancient Seeds, when you strike someone who is CC'd, you root them. Many people know about that. Druids are famous for roots. Apparently, if you hit 5 people with the same attack in the same second, it'll proc on all 5 of them, despite the fact that it has a cooldown. So he would go into a big group of people, and he would do this to hit them all with a daze, and then this to hit them all simultaneously with just a hit. And he would root an entire mob of people with an ability that has a 10-second cooldown per target.
Oh.
And
That's crazy in World versus World.
Exactly. That's the thing that it was a World v World video, and I was like, I messaged him and I was like, how did you do that? And on his YouTube comment section. So he taught me that very recently, and so there's lots of like little tips and tricks and stuff I pick up even now. Whenever I make a guide, and this is sort of bleeding into the second question you asked, I try. There's a tendency for people when a content creator makes something, if they're wrong about anything, people will freaking pounce on it, you know?
Yeah, yes,
like,
yes.
If you just go, Sliss Dexic for a second, and you say the blue tree is red at 45 minutes and 2 seconds into the video, you will get ripped apart in the comment section.
I know.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and I've accepted that. So what I often do with my videos is I'll end it with something like, if you know anything more on this topic, or if you want to correct me, or if you've got any tips and tricks on this, please, leave it in the comments. Share the advice with other newcomers. I try to like open the floor myself and be like, yeah, I could be wrong. Go ahead, like lay it out. And it so far has made the comment section much more humane. So kind of doing that has worked well so far.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's been a thing. And then okay, so that kind of was an answer to both your questions. You asked about how do I, what was it, target my content? Was that it?
No, it was more like what is it like being a content creator? Like what is the experience of creating the content? Because you are the resource.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could talk about this for ages. Like I'm a resource now, right? I came back to the game a year and a half to 2 years ago. Like as far as in this game goes, I was nobody. I was just a dude with a wizard hat, and that I came back at that time. My first few videos were essentially Let's Plays. Like my first few videos on YouTube. At that time period, I had this habit, which I hate past me for doing this. I would literally just take entire stream VODs, like 6 hours, and just throw them onto YouTube. And so I've got hundreds of videos of just that crap. And I leave them there because, sometimes people will go back and watch them, but I don't do that anymore. And for me at that time, YouTube was a means to an end. I was only using it to try to get more people to come watch my Twitch. It wasn't until like much later on that I started actually enjoying myself on YouTube and building a community there that wasn't just a means to an end. So I started putting in more effort. I actually taught myself video editing and stuff like that. So the first guide I made was called the 6 Stun Trap Beast. And honestly, it's like when a kid goes back and looks at their first art project. I freaking hate that thing when I go back and look at it. But the 6 Stun Trap Beast was just a PvP build I used. And it got me to go Platinum, I think, which was my very first time. Like, I peaked into Platinum 1 and then got shoved back out. But it was my first time getting there, and I was very proud of it. And I had this build that had 6 stuns in it. And it had traps, and it was ridiculous. And no one else was playing that way, Like, 99% of the time, you see a ranger, they got a longbow and a great sword, and they're going to cast Sick'em, and they're going to shoot you for 100,000 damage, and that's it. That's all they got. They're bottle rockets, they do that, and then that's it. I like running around and, making traps and explosives and stuff like that. And I was like, in my mind, there's 2 types of people. There's people that'll hog that information to try to abuse it as long as possible. And then there was me, who I was like, I'll share the information. I want the fame. So I made my first guide for it. And it did pretty well. It got a couple thousand views, which for the me of that time was insane. Most of my videos were like double digits. And so then that was kind of like I got the bug. So I started making more guides. It was soon after that I got affiliated by ArenaNet, and that's when I got a referral link. So anytime I convince someone to try the game, it actually tangibly helps me out. I can't say how much because they made me sign a non-disclosure agreement, but it helps me out. But that's when I made the Why Play Guild Wars 2 explaining the appeal video. I think I'm tooting my own horn here. If I understand something and I like it, I think I'm really good at explaining what's good about it to other people. Such is the case with that video. And that video took off. Like, my YouTube channel wasn't even monetized. For anyone who's listening to this who doesn't know, if a YouTube channel has less than 1,000 subscribers, they've never made a penny. They don't make anything. Yep. And I was not monetized at that time period. And I've been on YouTube over a year. So that video currently has over 250,000 views. Still the biggest thing on my channel, and I posted it last November. And, of course, many of those 250,000 people downloaded the game. So I don't know the exact number. I would love to know the exact number. I don't know it. I would love to be like, yeah, I brought this many people into the game, but I have no freaking idea. But I'm sure it's a lot. I'm sure it's hundreds, if not thousands of people have at least tried the game for a few minutes because of that video, judging by how well it's doing. So that got me monetized on YouTube. I started, not much, but you start getting pennies from YouTube each month and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, people who do this are going to need a guide on how to play the freaking game. Because let's face it, I don't know if you remember your first time playing the game, the tutorial is lackluster. It just kind of hurls you into the world. It's like, have fun, good luck, don't die. And so I made another guide, and it was called A Stronger Start. And honestly, the first half of the video, I was just making fun of all the classes. Like, I think that's why it did so well. Like, I called warriors jocks. And I just showed like a picture of the Incredible Hulk. I said engineers can turn into Green Lantern, referring to Hollowsmiths. When I talked about Daredevils, I showed Marvel's Daredevil just beating up some guy with a stick. I just went through every class and just tore them apart, and people loved it. And then I went on to, I had a character, I did the whole newbie zone, and like on Mach 2 fast forward, and everything, like the first heart, the first vista, everything I covered. And that video did really well. And I know I'm worried I'm talking too much here. Tell me to shut up if I am.
Oh no, you're the guest. You should be talking.
Okay. So at that point, I think it was around this time, I realized that guides that I made that could apply to all 9 classes did a whole lot better than guides that could apply to one class. So a lot of people ask me, like, Muck, I see your Ranger guide. Make a Firebrand one. Make a Tempest one. And I'm like, 1, I don't play any other class, really. And 2, no. Like, as politely as possible, no thank you. What if I make a guide, like, I've made how to get started crafting, how to get started raiding, how to start PvP, how to start World v World, how to start strikes, how to make a guild hall, all this general stuff. But you'll notice it's not like how to play this one particular build of Firebrand in this season's PvP, get it quick before they nerf it. Like, I'm very much, do you know the term evergreen content?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I discovered that term around that time period. And for anyone watching who doesn't know, an evergreen content is a video that doesn't go out of date. It's not like a newscast, it's not a build that's going to get nerfed in the next patch. It's something that helps or it's something people keep coming back to. Music and not safe for work are the biggest examples of evergreen content in the world. Because people will keep coming back to a music video or the not safe for work video. But guides is video games equivalent of that. People will keep coming, a guide will keep coming, keep people coming back. Like, oh, what did Muck say to do in crafting? I forgot. They'll come back to it. Or their friend picks up the game. Oh, check out Muck's guides. That's another view. If you just have a build, like the 6-ton Trap Beast build, like no one goes back and watches that unless they just really want to see vintage Muck, So at this point, I kind of divide my workload into 2 things, and I alternate between them. A high effort video that's evergreen, And like the last one I did was the top recipes you should know for the Mystic Forge. So a high effort video that's evergreen that won't really go out of date, and then a low effort one. And a low effort one is just like Twitch highlight reel, you know, like the funny moments that happened on stream, and I just smack them all together, apply some super glue, and throw it up. And you know, I'll bounce them back and forth between those. And you know, you can guess which one does better, but I can't just do the evergreen stuff back to back to back, or I would upload a lot less often.
Okay, so my next question is, how would you say, this is a little bit of a weird one, how would you say you use your time playing MMOs differently than you would, say, watching TV, movies, or reading books?
I mean, I use my hands more. I'm honestly don't have an immediate answer for that for the first time. How would I use my time differently? I think I've played games for so long, I almost can't sit still watching a show anymore. Like when I watch a show, like I'll have the show going on one screen and I'll be doing something on the other screen, you know? And then if something really amazing happens, I'll stop what I'm doing, rewind the show 5 seconds, watch the amazing thing, and then go back to splitting my attention.
Do you tend to multitask more often, like with media? Do you tend to game more with like media on the side, instead of just having media?
Yeah,
I noticed I do that myself a lot.
Yeah, I'm very much a multitasker. Like, even if I'm reading a book, I feel like unless it's a really good book, from me, you know, my point of view, unless it's a really good book, I often, if I've got any, you know, brain power left to wander around, it's like part of my brain's bored while I'm reading the book. So I found the best way for me to read books is audiobooks in the car. And now that I work from home, I'm almost never in the car. But back, you know, like a year or two ago, I went through, what was the last thing I listened to? Most of the Wheel of Time series, I think. Usually fantasy books, swords and magic, that's my thing.
Okay. Also, okay, so how about the community in Guild Wars 2? What would you say the temperature of Guild Wars 2's community is like? As in, how do people behave?
Okay, I've actually done a video on this. I got an answer prepared for that. Okay, so first of all, for whatever reason, and I can hypothesize on it, Guild Wars 2 community is the nicest one I've run into. And, like, you go into World of Warcraft, you go into the Barrens and ask where Mankirk's wife is, and people are going to tell you, like, you know, bend over and look up. You know, like, you are going to get all kinds of responses, and very few of them are PG. Like, I don't know why, but that's just the community over there, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, you go into League of Legends, you're like, guys, this is my first game, how do I? And they're like, oh my god, what are you doing? You know, it's just like, oh, they're going to tell you how they met your mother. It's going to be bad. So, in Guild Wars 2, for whatever reason, like, you go in there and like, you ask in town for something, people usually respond helpfully. Like, it's actually the very small minority that are jerks. And they're usually in the PvP lobby. I'm only half joking with that. I did a video where I hypothesized on this, and part of it, I think, was like in the original World of Warcraft, if you saw someone fighting a rare mob, those silver elite ones, the best thing you could do for you know, number one, try to train that guy and kill him. The mob will reset, and then you try to take it. That would be the most profitable thing for you. But in Guild Wars 2, now WoW does what Guild Wars 2 does now, but I'm talking about like OG. Guild Wars 2 from the beginning, I think, if someone is fighting a mob and you join in, you both get a copy of loot. So if you see some guy on the side of the road who's low on health and he's fighting for his life, and you see a low on health boss, even if you're motivated by pure greed, you'll probably help that guy kill that boss and save his life, you know? Mm-hmm. Or if he goes downstate, reviving someone gives you experience in this game, a lot of it. Even if you're motivated by greed, they reward you for doing good things. So it's like, you could theorize that we're being like unconsciously conditioned to do good things in this game, and I don't really care. I think that's wonderful. But if it's not that, I don't know what it is. So those are some hypotheses I've come up with in the past. But the community is very, very nice. Most of the people I've met and talked to in this game, even before I was anybody in this game, seem like people nice enough that I'd be like, oh yeah, let's go out to dinner sometime, you know? One phrase I've said on here many times is like, 98% of the people I've met are nice enough. I'd probably be fine going out to dinner with them. The last 2% were in PvP. And that is not to say that all the people in PvP are bad. It's just to say that all the bad people I met were in PvP.
Okay. The
Chat
the
says
next
it's
one
a date.
Do you have a guild or community in Guild Wars 2? Which I think is an easy one. There's the Bone Zone. Do you talk to them outside of Guild Wars 2? Outside of the context of Guild Wars, outside of Guild Wars 2.
Yeah. So, first off, I wanted the experience of making a guild. So I made a guild. My son, he was then, I think, 7 years old. Okay, super short story time, but I feel like I need to explain this or I sound like a perv. My son, my son was sitting in my lap. We were playing Subnautica, okay? And in Subnautica, the levels are called like the Arctic Zone, the Tropical Zone, and stuff like that. We're going through this cave in our putt-putt little submarine. There's this huge Leviathan skeleton. Like, we're swimming between the ribs. It's so massive. And he's like, Daddy, I bet this area is called the Bone Zone. And of course, chat, being very mature, we all laughed like crazy. And henceforth, the community was the Bone Zone. That's what started.
Oh.
Okay? So, and he's 8 years old now, almost 2 years later. He's so proud of it, still does not know what he's done. All right. So that's what named it. That's what named the Bone Zone. So that said, we made a guild. We called it the Bone Zone. I got to experience making a guild, yada, yada, yada. And then once upon a time, I made a video called Useful Resources for Guild Wars 2. And it talked about things like Snow Crows, Meta Battle, Deskritize.eu, my own video guide, in case that was the first video of mine they had ever found. I just talked about useful resources, how to get around the game. And one of the things I said was, I talked about the buffs you get as part of being in a guild and the synthesizers and how great they are. And I said, if you want access to these, even if it's just to mooch off of me, I don't care. Send me a whisper. I had no idea what a Pandora's box I was opening, because it was soon after that I kind of got more popular in the community, and then a lot of people went back and watched my old videos. And I was just like, right this second, I've got 6 new mails since yesterday for guild invites. And I have to clear out my mailbox a few times a day because the stupid mail limit. But yeah, so I don't like telling people I can't help them. So I was like, okay, I made another guild, because each guild has a 500 person limit. And then another one. And then I said no more. So I currently have 3 500-man guilds, 1,500 people in game. And anytime someone's been idle for a month, like they haven't logged in a month, we'll boot one of them out, and then we'll get someone else in that's active, because I'm constantly getting bombarded with requests. We've diversified the workload. I've got some officers in each one that help handle the the upgrades and stuff like that, because I can no longer do it all. But yeah, so that's that. Now, I tell all of them, yeah, there's 3 guilds, but it's one big community. Use the Discord to talk to each other. So because of that, we've got the Discord with a massive group of people on there, and that's how they all interact. Like, hey, want to do fractals? Hey, who wants to queue up for a raid? Blah, 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 blah. So, the Discord's used almost as often as guild chat is. So that kind of segues into your other question about, do we talk much outside of Guild Wars? There's a lot of talking on the Discord. And of course, it bleeds into other channels. Like, they might go to the Discord for Guild Wars 2 and then be like, oh, hey, look, there's this other game channel, or memes, or general discussion, whatever. So it does kind of get everybody over there.
Awesome. So, my final question is, what is your favorite memory or experience from playing MMOs?
There's so many. I mean, just EverQuest and WoW was 17 years.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many. All right. One that comes to mind. So I got a couple of server firsts in World of Warcraft. Not like world first, but server first. At our nerd peak, I was leading a group that was like top 50 in the United States before we fell back down. That was like our absolute pinnacle. The Lich King fight. So we were doing the Lich King, and we were trying to do the 10-man heroic difficulty. No one on our server had done that. I was one of the tanks. and you're supposed to do the fight. Like the what was considered the proper way to do the fight was 2 tanks, 3 healers, 5 damage dealers. We couldn't freaking get it. So we end up like the next day, we had most of the people to try, but we were missing the other tank. And someone was like, what if we did this and this to make up for the fact that we didn't, but what if we use this mechanic to make up for the fact that we don't have another tank for the tank swap mechanic? And I was like, I'd love to try. So we went into it and we're like, okay, we don't have enough damage. And one of the healers is like, what if I swapped to DPS? So we were going from 2 tanks, 3 heals down to 1 tank, 2 heal, 7 damage dealers. And I had to do so many jobs on that fight. Like I was doing, it felt like something at the end I should have put on my resume, Like I just felt so freaking accomplished because we killed it. We killed it, and we got the server first for Heroic Lich King with 1 tank, 2 healers, 7 DPS. And I was the only tank on the server that, in that moment, that had ever done it. Like, there wasn't even a co-tank. And it was funny because one of the healers that couldn't make it that day was, like, our very, very kind of... Okay, these days people would call her a Karen. And she couldn't make it that day. So she logs on the next day, and she was very personally offended that we had been able to do it when she wasn't there.
Oh dear.
But the other tank was just like, oh wow, really? Nice job. Yeah, he was really chill about it. So that was that one was really memorable. There was all kinds. Back when I played EverQuest, there were rare spawns, and when I say rare spawns, I mean like once a year. Like there was like this one, and they put them in weird places too. Like there was the southern desert of Ro. Was a newbie zone. It was like a level 10 to level 30 newbie zone, and the level 30s mobs were like giants that you could see from miles away, so you could avoid them very easily. And if you ever played WoW, think like the Fell Reavers in Hellfire.
Yeah, oh my god.
Okay, so it'd be kind of like that. Like if you're paying attention, you could just avoid those things and carry on about your business.
Yeah, because they also made a really loud noise before.
So there was one exception to that. The southern desert of Ro was like a level 10 to level 15 zone. Once a week, a level 45 monster called Terrorantula, and it was a spider the size of Godzilla. Like, its legs were like the size of the trees in that zone. Like, once a week, this thing would spawn. And, like, I swear, I saw so many stories online and complaints on the forums about people with arachnophobia just, like, passing out.
Why did you put this here?
Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of memories from those really weird, like ultra rare spawns. So, like you saw one of those, it was amazing. There was this monster called the Sleeper, and it was a dragon, and you could only wake it up if the top guild on the server had done these very unique conditions. It had a very unique ability. It could go through zone lines. I've never heard of another game to do this. That dragon could go through loading screens. Mm-hmm. So some people woke it up, and like it was going through zones where they were just like underground caverns, but somehow this dragon was going through it. So you would just see like a toenail clip through the ground, and you'd be dead. And but someone actually managed to train it through a bunch of zones. And I saw so many people that weren't mad that they died. They were mad that the Sleeper killed them, and they didn't get to see it. Just hundreds and hundreds of people. Like, it wasn't like on the level of the Blood Plague incident in World of Warcraft, but it was just very big for its time.
Oh. All right, so before I release you into the wild, do you have any questions for me?
I had never heard of, and I'm not saying this is your name, I'm saying this as like a noun. I've never heard of MMOanthropology before being introduced to you. Are you the only anthropologist in your field? Are there others?
Oh no, there's numerous anthropologists who study online communities and work in MMOs. And I'm only a student. I'm an undergraduate, and I'm probably going to be an undergraduate forever at the rate that I'm a student. if you're interested in the field of study, there's the community of American anthropologists. In fact, if you go to my channel, I even added a set of links for podcasts and even like a link that explains what anthropology is and the different branches and etc. There's all sorts of resources and like books and guides and all sorts of interesting stuff. And there was even like this extremely cool sociology project called Project Daedalus that was a massive sociology study about embodiment and avatars and all sorts of other things, about the effects of like people going online and etc. So, well, that was really cool. So thank you everyone for coming along to this MMOanthropology interview. I of course have been your host Amarist, and this has been Mukluk with us. And I want to thank you so much for your time and attention. This was brilliant. And thanks everyone for coming along. And to everybody, good night and good dreams.
All right, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And before I release you into the wild, let's find a place so I can take a couple screenshots of you for like a thumbnail.
Okay. Why don't you pick the screenshot place since I picked the home?
Oh, okay. Well, in here is fine. Just anywhere with like, if you want to just stand over here, like with this sort of like background. Yeah, just face
out.
If you want to. Well, I'll just stand so that you're facing me with the like this cannon or whatever, behind you, like where so that you're against the cliff, just facing me. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and then I'll just hit print screen a couple times. Oh, your worm will be facing the wrong way. Well, whatever. I love the fight shrub. It's cool.
Oh, dude, I got, what are my other pets? I've got Tomahawk, I got Bear Grylls,
Yeah, move my mouse.
Got a ton of them. Owlbert Einstein, that one's popular.
Oh, okay, that's great. Oh. There. Oh, okay, perfect. I love that Guild Wars actually saves the little screenshot things that I don't need to cobble them up. Also, everyone, thank you so much for the follows. Carhat, Confetti, Damned Done, Katsu KT. If I missed anyone, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for all the follows, and thank you so much again, Mukluk, for the interview and everything. Gum the Third, thank you so much for the follow. Raytheon, everyone in the chat. I think I saw Sun talking. I'm gonna release Mukluk into the wild and get on with my show and everything. So brilliant! It was wonderful doing the interview. I'm gonna have it up on the Ape and Sam. I thought I saw you too, and so brilliant. I will talk to everyone later. And Mukluk, wonderful speaking to you. I'm going to run off.
All right, you as well. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, chat. That's that. He has released me into the wild. He said it like 3 times.
Dennis should have interrupted.
Dennis should have interrupted. I'm just imagining how that'd be like, all right, my first question, and just be like, I asked the questions here, thank you, Bab. It just, yeah, I'm sure that would have gone over real well with his audience that don't know me yet.